Well... No!
This review has been made possible by Norbert thanks to his great support on Ko-fi. If you want to be cool like him, please head over to my Ko-fi commission page to learn more details on how you can order your own choice for a single cartoon episode for me to review. Our next stop during our trip on the nostalgia train is none other than the Backyardigans. That's right, rise up fellow Zoomers, cause it's time to revisit our old friends Pablo, Tyrone, Uniqua, Tasha, and Austin in their big backyard. Especially the first few seasons, as a kid, I loved to watch the Backyardigans whenever I got to catch it on Treehouse TV, or even on Nick Jr. on CBS. Shout out to those who remember that block. I even had a VHS tape of it as a Christmas gift, with its diverse music and dance palette seen in each episode, and a pro-imagination mindset. The Backyardigans is up there with Blue's Clues as one of the most universally beloved Nick Jr. shows of all time. It's to the point where people were mourning the loss of series creator Janice Burgess in 2024 to the same extent as when Steven Hillenburg passed. But as much as this could be interpreted as a tribute to Janice's legacy in children's television, the main motive behind this review request was the fact that the lost media community struck gold this year when they finally found the prototypical live-action pilot of Me and My Friends after 8 years of searching and gatekeeping. In general, 2025 has been the GOAT for rediscovering lost TV pilots. I don't know what excuse the Proud Family's pilot has for not showing up by now, but as cool as it was to see this piece of Nick Jr. history resurface, Me and My Friends made me feeling like Patchy the Pirate thinking, that's it? I'm so glad Janice Burgess retooled the concept into something that ended up being much more remarkable than the generic polka dot shorts looking ass program we could have gotten instead. Today I'm specifically looking at the season 1 finale, High Tea. This will be the first time I'm watching this particular episode in a really long time, and the first Backyardigans episode I saw since I rewatched The Heart of the Jungle last year in memory of Janice. There are a few details about High Tea I remembered prior to revisiting it for this review, and others that felt like a boomerang finally came back to me. Before I get into plot specifics, I'll give you a brief refresher on the typical formula for each Backyardigans episode. One or more of the 5 main characters would be in the backyard to set the stage for the episode's adventure theme and music genre. Then the backyard transforms into the story's main location. The characters would have their little adventure while singing more songs. Pablo would panic in circles if something doesn't go right for a brief moment. The characters sing once more before one of their stomachs growl, meaning it's time to wrap up playtime and head inside for a snack, but not before singing goodbye to the viewer. Rinse and repeat. But in the case of High Tea, there's something about the setup for its plot that feels like a twist to the formula. With this being the first season's finale, the kids who've watched the earlier episodes might have been accustomed to the standard story beats at this point. So to see Pablo, Tyrone, and Uniqua having their own idea for an exciting backyard adventure and unable to settle on which one just felt like a subversive deconstruction. As for the ideas themselves, Pablo has a need for speed as a race car driver, Tyrone wants to experience the thrills of being a mountain climber, and Uniqua is trying to become the next Fozzie Bear by being a stand-up comedian. Because as we all know, nothing is more adventurous than dodging hecklers who don't get your style of comedy. When the 3 of them go over to Tasha to help them make their choice, she says poo-poo to their suggestions and recommends they have an adrenaline-pumping adventure of a tea party. Yes, a stereotypically fancy British-style tea party where you pull out your pinky and say pip pip cheerio. And this is where we get into today's featured genre of music and choreography, the Irish step dance.
Step dancing makes me feel manly.
After Pablo, Tyrone, and Uniqua begrudgingly agreed to partake in the seemingly wussy activity, they and Tasha embark on their imaginary adventure in the Southeast Asian island of Borneo. While Tasha's perfectionism came close to making the others' patience wear thin, they soon see how completing the 3 steps for the quote perfect tea party could in fact meet their respective needs. Tyrone found navigating through the trees for golden tea leaves to be thrilling. Uniqua successfully makes the grumpy Emperor Austin laugh with her knock-knock joke. And Pablo fought riding a bunch of outdated looking photorealistic horses to the geyser was as satisfying as driving a race car. But we need something perfect to eat while sipping our perfect cup of tea, so after one more jolly Irish step dance, it's over to Pablo's house for some peanut butter jelly time! I mean, yeah, going inside Pablo's home does sound like a better setting for this so-called perfect tea party than standing in the middle of a hot desert, right? I don't know, it's all subjective. So when I think back to my experience watching the Backyardigans as a kid, I doubt there was ever an episode I dreaded seeing come on TV again. Perhaps at most I was just hankering for something from the series other than the same old first season that constantly played. But those episodes themselves were not dull moments, and High Tea certainly wasn't an exception. There isn't a shortage of things to admire about this ensemble adventure featuring all 5 characters. For starters, yeah, let's talk about the characters. One thing I've always find interesting about the Backyardigans is, for as tiny as this cast is, not every episode features Pablo, Tyrone, Uniqua, Tasha, and Austin all together. Sometimes it's only 4 of them, other times it's just 3 of them. It's understandable because it depends on how the writers could find a way for each character to be properly utilized in the story. Uniqua is technically the main character of the show, appearing in all 80 episodes. This is because she was the closest to Janice Burgess' heart, a self-insert in the most positive way, even if Janice was admittedly more like the neurotic Pablo when she was a kid. In High Tea, the whole quintet was used admirably here, even Tasha, who was otherwise my least favorite as a kid due to her bossy attitude. Yeah, you might be noticing a pattern with these childhood cartoons, but there's one who I want to especially go into more details on later in this review, because that particular Backyardigan really helped make this episode worthwhile. Stay tuned. Oh yeah, and our boy Pablo was voiced by Avatar Aang himself, Zach Tyler Eisen, during the show's first season. I don't know, I just thought it was an obligatory bit of trivia to mention, because we all loved Avatar The Last Airbender, right? Now let's talk about the thing most people who grew up with the Backyardigans remember more than the episode plots themselves, the music and choreography. Seriously, Little Einsteins ain't got nothing on these guys. They are among the reasons why the Backyardigans resonated with us Gen Z folks, to the point of meme material. The different child singers were gifted talent, and there is a high chance that at least one song per episode will get stuck in your head for days. For sure, that's what happened to me after I rewatched the Iris-inspired High Tea, and not just the lyrical music, but the background cues as well, including a particular theme that plays when Tasha makes an understatement.
There's just one teensy little thing. Yeah?
Also, the episode's main song, Pip Pip Cheerio, was composed to the tune of an old late 1890s track called There'll Be a Hot Time in the Old Town Tonight, which I'm just realizing was also the original theme song to Looney Tunes during the Bosco days.
Search out the finest tea, anywhere on under sea, so lift your pinky, pip pip cheerio.
Sure, it's not uncommon for the show's music to use public domain songs as foundation, but this is a deep cut that delighted the Looney Tunes nerd in me. As for the characters' dance moves, they were made possible by the collaboration between animation director Bill Giggy and choreographer Beth Bogus. Instead of using any motion capture like in the televised cinematic classic Donkey Kong Country, the real-life dancers were videotaped, and then the animators at Nelvana will bring the CGI characters to life from scratch while looking at the video reference. When you watch these dance steps and gestures of these guys, you can feel there is that sense of humanity implemented without it looking too uncanny, and the ways each character dances were meant to match their respective personalities. And that brings me to the computer animation of the Backyardigans in general. This is the second CGI production I'm reviewing as a request since Ratchet & Clank Life of Pi, and while the rendering looks infinitely dated by comparison, especially with the environments and those damn horses, the 5 Backyardigans themselves have cute and simple enough designs that help their animation be more consistently appealing. And speaking of the character designs, did you know that they were done by the same guy who created Oswald the Octopus? Yes, mind-blowing, I know. On the topic of the characters, I did say I was gonna spend some time highlighting the Backyardigan who stood out the most in this episode, in my opinion. I'm referring to that mother effing marsupial, Austin. Okay, a few trivial things about him, right? Contrary to popular belief, Austin, who's considered the new kid in the neighborhood, was in fact conceived during the me and my friends stage of the show's development. I know he never appeared in the pilot, but considering that the finalized Backyardigans doesn't have every character appear in every episode, there's a chance that Austin could have shown up at some point had the concept went in that direction. So I guess it's up to you if you still want to consider Austin as part of the category of main characters who were absent from an earlier version of a series during the pitching process. But back to how Austin was portrayed in High Tea, remember when I said that some things about the episode I continue to remember since childhood, while other details were refreshers after revisiting it here? The sequence with Austin in his role as the Emperor is the most memorable part for me, even into adulthood. Firstly, just as a reminder of Austin's personality, he's typically depicted as the shy guy, the quiet kid who likes to keep things low-key. Here, however, he is more assertive, literally claiming his throne and ruling the island. But instead of embracing his position as Emperor like Cusco, Austin sings about how he's grumpy because he's apparently been sitting on his ass for a zillion years, which is a hilarious take on kid logic. Obviously, this is hands down my favorite out of all the songs in High Tea. A noteworthy part of this musical number is when Tyrone, Tasha, and Pablo all try and fail to do something funny for Austin so he could lighten up and give them his teapot for the tea party. I especially love the detail of Austin's gestures sarcastically mimicking each of the three kids' respective stunts. Honestly, I thought Pablo's cross-eyed bow tie spin and dance was funnier than Uniqua's basic ass knock-knock joke. By the way, for as much as I've been praising Austin for the past several sentences, Pablo is probably my favorite Backyardigan at the end of the day. In general, the 2000s was a peak decade for animated penguins, wasn't it? And yes, I consider King DDD a penguin, fight me! Anyway, I had a delightful time revisiting High Tea, and any additional Backyardigans episodes I felt like watching for the first time in ages during the making of this review. No offense to the Gen Alpha kids of today who consume endless amounts of Miss Rachel, but we Gen Z kids have been eating good with quality preschool shows such as this. Like I said in my Franklin's Magic Christmas review, Nelvana's children's cartoons of yesteryear are timeless, engaging, and tenderly enough to generate new fans in the form of 5-year-olds in the 2020s, and the Backyardigans is certainly no exception. Of course I would recommend it to today's youngsters, though maybe stay away from those weird, cheap shorts that have been coming out lately. Thank you Norbert for commissioning this consecutive trip down memory lane, and a special thanks to the late great Janice Burgess for turning her love of big screen blockbusters into one of the most admirable preschool shows from my generation. Also, as I was editing my script, I heard that Nelvana will no longer be a functioning animation studio, but will remain as an in-name only brand of Corus, a la Hanna-Barbera. Either way, I and anybody else who grew up with their many programs can't thank the polar bear enough for the impact it left. Man, Corus is just running away, isn't it? Okay, widening things up, feel free to share your own memories of this high quality episode of the Backyardigans and your thoughts on the show in general if you grew up with it. And if you can do me a teensy little favor, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and drop a teacup emoji in the comments to confirm that you watched this review until the very end. And press F in the chat for Nelvana. Thanks for watching, take care, and pip pip cheerio!